Hey babes, my name is Nadia Sayer. Sorry, it has been a minute since I have last been on here, and I do apologize. Winter coming in, preps for it, all that fun stuff, but I am back with Chapter 11 of The Rebels. Yay! So, without further ado, because honestly sitting here yapping at my own face is kind of weird, let's get on with it, shall we? Chapter 11. In the morning, sore and stiff, we decided to chance the sidewalks again and try to head farther west. My arms and shoulders screamed if I lifted them higher than my chest, and my neck could barely turn. I wasn't sure how much of it was due to our efforts the day before and how much to sleeping on the cold, hard ground. I swung my arms in widening circles, slowly warming stiff muscles. Yesterday, we'd had to boost Alex over the last 3 or 4 fences, and I'd been 1 fence away from needing help myself. Sonya was fine, though. What else could we expect from the woman who could carry 2 bales of hay at a time for half a day? Walking down the street, the normal people we saw on this side of the barrier seemed different. I looked around, puzzled. "What is it?" Alex muttered. "Dunno. Something." I scratched my head. Beanies were not meant to be worn 24 hours a day, 5 days in a row. "Anything weird look weird to you guys?" "Other than you?" Sonya looked around. I elbowed her sharply. "Is it just me, or are people here cleaner?" The light bulb finally went off. I almost raised a finger and said, "Aha!" because that wouldn't have been noticeable at all. The soldiers over here were also different. It was little things. Guns weren't held at the ready, the men spoke quietly to each other, and there was a general air of relaxation. "This is their green zone," I said, as understanding dawned. "What?" "This is the area they control most tightly. Betcha once the outer fence is done, they do a proper one around this entire section. Security will go through the roof then." I nodded to myself. It's what I would do, and they were actually trained to be soldiers. I wondered if there was anything else they'd add to it. More guard stations, towers. Were towers even effective anymore? Then again, in many respects, we had less technology now than was present in World War II, and guard towers worked pretty well back then. I nodded decisively. We were definitely screwed. "I'll take that bet," Sonya said calmly. $100? Pfft. I waved a hand. "What do I want it that for? Make it a candy bar. Those things shouldn't go bad anytime soon. If we ever find some." "If I win, I want a Mars bar." Sonya grinned as we ambled down a side street angling south. Best to get out of sight before Steve talked to us out of boredom. A quarter of a mile later, it dawned on me that the side street may not have been our best idea. Bear in mind, this was in a series of brain farts that involved trying to overthrow our occupiers. It occurred to me that we really made a lot of stupid choices, because once we got across the street, we saw the Capitol building rising up on our right. "So that's why 12th Street sounded familiar," I said, staring inanely at the gray dome rising above the park. "Also, the gold dude on top of the Capitol building is missing." Alex stuck her head out for a better look, then pulled back quickly. "On the plus side, if we want to watch Steve, we have plenty to look at." She wasn't joking. The grounds around the building were a hive of activity, and we finally saw the bureaucratic arm of Steve. Instead of the standard rifle, handgun, and baton, now we saw files and briefcases. Son pursed her lips in a soundless whistle. "Is it just me, or does it look like they're setting up their own government here?" "I do believe you're right, cousin mine," I concurred, while trying hard to rubberneck without looking like gawking. The bastards are getting all kinds of comfortable, aren't they? Kind of makes me want to mess it all up, just for shits and giggles. "There's more women here," Sonya observed. "I've seen maybe 2 this entire time, but here, They're even wearing sensible heels. Aides? Dress uniforms? Do we care? Can we throw a grenade? Alex pleaded. Just a little one? I shook my head. We'd need a grenade launcher to hit the Capitol from concealment. I don't know about you, but I really don't feel like walking up to the front steps and lobbing one in the double doors. We wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting out. I took a deep breath, smelling the coming rain and watching the clouds rolling in from the south. It'd been 2 days since the north wind broke, and the temperature now was practically warm. I feel like writing some poetry, I announced. Poetry? They chorused. I loved it when shit like that happened. Well, I said reasonably, we need an excuse to sit around and observe, right? I can't draw to save my life, and the best I have on me is a pen. Why do you have a pen? Alex asked. Because they're there. You're insane. Yeah, but at least I'm not talking back to myself. Yet. Give me time. I grinned at Alex. Get ready to start counting. We moved slowly, never staying in one place too long. I kept a tiny notebook tucked in one pocket, the first half of which had notes to myself since we'd gotten to the bunker. Now I filled page after page with tiny diagrams and notes with observations on how many rifles we saw, any sentries and checkpoints, and which areas saw the most traffic. The only heart attack came when a soldier demanded to know what we were doing. I showed him a couple pages with the plagiarized bits of poetry we could think of. It was bad. The soldier ordered us to move on, and we were more than happy to, skittering off under his suspicious glare. We went as far as the next group of bushes we could lurk in. By the time we'd worked our way to the south side, between the Capitol and the university, we had one glaring flaw in our half-assed plan. Oh, don't get me wrong. There were a multitude of minor flaws as well. This would be easier if we knew exactly what kind of rifle they had. Sonya pointed out the elephant in the room. I mean, we're still no closer to knowing what kind of firepower they actually have. Are they automatic? Semi? Do they have magazines? What's their capacity? I've seen you eyeballing them, I told her. I have every faith you'll get your hands on one soon. Sonya grinned so widely that the gap at the corner of her smile showed, and the laugh lines at the corner of her eyes deepened. I think we need to know more about all kinds of different weapons, Alex said. If we did, we might be able to tell by looking at them. Oh, sentries on top of the university, north and south. Weapons training when we get back then, I said, dutifully noting the sentries. We'll read through all the booklets and train with every type of gun in there. Do you know, Son said casually, I think the university might be in use as a barracks. Huh? What makes you say that? I kept scribbling, sketching a rough outline of the back of the Capitol and the position of a gun nest on the roof. Well, the number of Steves walking around is a hint. Lots of dudes going in and out. Quite a few of the assholes visible through the windows. You know, that sort of thing. Ooh, look at Sherlock over here, I teased, nervous sweat breaking out across my skin, an itch crawling up my spine to my neck. We're done here. Let's take the scenic route back. I got no argument from them. Not even Alex, which I considered a victory. Our level of casual as we walked away was a step below whistling while rocking on your heels and looking around unconcerned. We took the direction with the fewest people, which was... I glanced up at the sun showing through patchy clouds. West-ish. The first side street was too close to the university still, so that we took the second one, a left. Church Street, and there was an old church on the corner. Yes, nice to see how much thought went into the street names, I thought with a grimace. The church still had a sign up advertising it as a nightclub. I doubted it was used for that anymore either. I risked a quick look behind as we passed a tall, pale building. once a theater, to spot a lone soldier behind us. Easy enough to spot by simple dint of being the only other person besides us on this street. Don't look now, but we have a friend, I said in a low voice. Ahead of us, the new 99E rose up in all its concrete glory. Once upon a time, that highway had narrowed to a 2-lane road through the city. When I was a kid, the city bought up land around it in order to build it up more like a freeway. That was when Aunt Rose lost her job here. The houses that were left in shit condition... The houses that were left were in shit condition and took twice as many people as there were bedrooms to be able to afford. So a 2-bedroom house needed to have 4 people in it. As a result, gangs and the homeless had ruled. The only law-abiding folks here had been the truly desperate. Now the buildings rose around us empty. I wondered if the place was as abandoned as it looked, or if the people were just out working. The street was creepy, like walking through a ghost town or a horror movie, compared to yesterday, where we saw massive overcrowding. Sonya watched the windows intently as we passed them, then gave us reports on our tail. It's been 10 frickin' minutes and he's still there. Frustration welled in her voice. There was nowhere for us to go without looking more suspicious. I hoped that when we made it to the highway, there'd be a chance for us to lose the soldier. Maybe disappear before he decided he was bored with... You! The male voice echoed off empty buildings in a heavily accented English. What you doing? I see you with book. What you doing? Reluctantly, we turned to face him. I held up my hands to show him they were empty, and, clearly irritated, he pointed to my side pocket where I'd stashed the notebook and pen. Poetry? I said, hoping he didn't catch the stutter. I was practicing my poetry. My friends came with me because our parents won't let us out alone. What is poetry? Poetry, he demanded. I hear this now. My mind raced frantically as I tried to think of something. Anything. His eyes narrowed, irritation turning to anger. So I opened my mouth, and what came out didn't even bother checking in with my brain before it exited. I walked one day and saw a time. I thought it'd make an awesome rhyme. Until I saw those distant shores, I realized I really suck at this. Awesome! I clenched my hands, grinning insanely. He glared at us and dropped a hand onto his sidearm. I blinked. I hadn't even realized he wasn't carrying a rifle. You come with me now. We go back. Talk more there. He leered at us and licked his lips. Okay, maybe it wasn't anger I'd been picking up on. Why did I have to be so fucking clueless? I frantically wiggled my fingers behind my back and prayed the girls could read my mind. Or my fingers. Whatever. I can't do that. We have to go home. Our parents will be getting worried about us. I could just about feel Sonia's groan. I'm a terrible liar unless I have about an hour to prepare. Apparently, the soldier didn't buy it either, because he simply stepped to the side and waved for us to precede him. As I walked towards him, he said, You tell me about you family. What is they name? Why they let you wander? Nice girls no wander. He leered again. I was beginning to think this creep only had the one expression, but I tried to placate him anyway. We're, the Smiths? I swallowed a whimper. This just kept getting better and better. When I tried to pass him, he reached out and squeezed my hip familiarly. Oh, fuck this! I grabbed the hand on my hip and turned towards him, my right hand coming around in an open palm strike to the chin, snapping his head back. Sonya, poised right behind the bastard, had an arm raised with a chunk of concrete in her hand when he fell. We stared at each other in shock or amazement, I'm not sure which, only broken when Alex cackled and darted away to check our back trail. What do we do now? Sonya wondered. Fuck if I know, I hissed. I don't exactly make it a practice to beat guys up. Let's at least get out of the damn road. Sure you do, Sonya grunted as we dragged his skinny ass between a house and an empty apartment block. I do what? I shook my head, trying to dislodge 2 hairs poking the corner of my eye. Beat guys up? I do not! Oh, what do you call Andy? Self-inflicted via sheer stupidity. We sat on the guy to make sure he wouldn't unexpectedly wake up while we weren't looking. Son on his legs, me on his chest. Theo, no way a guy kicks himself in the nuts and gives himself a broken nose. Oh, don't forget a sprained wrist. He really wanted me to. I think he was a masochist. How's that? Said he'd like to stretch Peter's ass. Sonya winced. Okay, what about that other guy, Aaron? Grabbed my crotch. I do have other examples, you know. Alex saved us from continuing by arriving back and reporting that the coast was clear. Have you guys decided what to do with him yet? No. Alex had the simplest solution. Kill him. One less to deal with later. The soldier shifted beneath us, slowly waking up. I thought frantically, trying to come up with an idea that wasn't likely to have him hunting us down. Death. I grimaced. I'd already killed in the heat of the moment, but this was premeditated. It also made a lot of sense. My stomach heaved and I swallowed heavily, trying to keep it in place. Fuck you, bitches, the shoulder gasped under my weight. Rape, you cunts. I clamped a gloved hand over his mouth and stared down at him, my nausea dissipating. His grasp of swear words is excellent. And unfortunate. For him. Alex started forward eagerly, knife already in hand. The soldier's eyes rolled wildly. Wait! I stopped her. Hope, you know we have to do this, she snapped. I glared. I know, especially since you threw out my name. Thank you. But you won't be doing this. I took a deep breath and held a hand out. I will. Under us, the soldier thrashed, trying to get free. Sonya adjusted her grip on his legs and rode it out. I didn't even have that much trouble. I'm a tall girl. Taller than either of the others, and well built with plenty of muscle. Taller than the soldier, come to think of it. Alex started, surprised by my assertion. I'm more than happy to kill the misogynistic fucker. You don't have to do it. Yeah, well, it's about time I decide exactly what I'm willing to do, right? Until now, we've been pretty vague. Gonna do something. Your aunt told me I need to get clear. This is me getting clear. I'm putting down a rapist, or soon-to-be rapist, like the rabid dog he is. Privately, I acknowledged another reason. Alex was too eager for it. I honestly think she'd kill the guy and never give it a moment's notice. What would it do to her, though, if she looked back on these days? How would she feel later, knowing that she'd happily cut a man's throat and left, eager to kill again? I worried it might send her into a downward spiral of blood and retribution. One she'd find it difficult to get out of. The soldier's eyes flared with panic as he listened to us, and he began shaking his head, whimpering. I flicked my fingers, wanting Alex to give me the knife so we could get this over with. He began crying, sobbing into my hand, tears running down his temples, snot bubbling and popping against my glove, biting and wriggling frantically. I positioned the knife above his solar plexus, angled to drive it under the breastbone and into his heart. Hesitated. Tried to nerve myself up for it. I had a flash of memory. Papa with a needle poised over the cow's rump, trying to give her a muscle shot. It always took him 5 to 10 minutes to steel himself to do it. I'd managed to pick up on that reluctance. Now I knelt astride a human being and tried to brace myself to drive a knife in and snuff a life out. I gritted my teeth and pressed. The man squealed and thrashed. I thought of the animals we'd butchered on the farm, but that was different again. Behind me, Sonya rested a hand on my back. I stiffened. Sonya doesn't touch people casually, so for her to do it now meant I'd better pay attention. If we let him go now, he'll just go back to hurting girls. How do you know? I gritted, readjusting my grip on the knife. Remember who my dad is? I know the signs of an abuser. She patted my back. Do it for the girls we both know he's hurt. Let's keep him from ever hurting more. I nodded jerkily. Then, before I had a chance to think about any more about it, I threw my weight behind the knife, driving it straight in. It caught on his uniform briefly, but once it was through the cloth, the razor-sharp steel entered his body easily, needing just a single upward wrench to drive it home. I felt the skin, muscles, and organs parting in front of the blade like every other time I'd ever gutted an animal. He thrashed some more, shivered, shit himself, and finally fell still. I left the knife embedded and crawled a few feet away to vomit into a pile of drifted garbage. I heaved until there was nothing left to come up. I stayed there, on my hands and knees, head hanging for I don't know how long, before Alex came over and helped me up. "Why didn't you let me do it?" she asked me curiously. "It wouldn't have bothered me anywhere near as much." "That's why," I said, fishing my depleted canteen out and rinsing the taste from my mouth. She gave me a confused look. "Someday, you'll reach a point where you're not so angry anymore. I don't want you to look back at some of the things you did and hate yourself. Or think you're a monster. What happens when you realize you killed a man and enjoyed it?" Unsure how to respond, Alex ignored that and showed me what they'd found while I'd been puking my guts up. There was little enough to see. Identification papers that we couldn't read but did contain a photograph, the handgun, no spare magazine, and interestingly, a small notebook and several pens tucked into his breast pocket. "Looks like, I don't know, lists maybe?" Sonya flipped through the notebook. "How the hell am I supposed to tell? I can barely read English. No way I'm going to be able to figure out Korean." "He doesn't have much by way of calluses." I put down his right hand. "I'm pretty sure if he was a normal soldier, he'd at least have a callus on his trigger finger. We'd all develop blisters that turned into calluses on our index fingers." I absently-mindedly rubbed a thumb over mine through the glove, suddenly drained. Shit. I rubbed my fingertips over my eyebrows, hoping to relieve the tension there. This was exactly what I'd expected. I just didn't want to be right. I pressed my palms to my eyes, struggling to hold back tears. "We have to hide the body and the scene," I said thickly. I'd always figured that under the right circumstances, I could kill. I wasn't dumb enough to be one of those, "Oh, I could never hurt someone" types. Of course I could hurt someone. I have done it. Sometimes I even think I enjoy it. But still, to think a thing and to have it proved are two very different things. It hurt. I hurt. I sighed and turned back to the work that still needed doing. Sonya was busy burying the body under the torn trash piled against the bridge thingies. Girders? Girders sounded right. Or maybe it was pilings. Hell, I'd never learned much about bridges. I walked over with a handful of trash to scatter over the stains left on the concrete when Sonya stopped me. "What?" I asked irritably. "Do you see any other type of garbage floating around in this area? No? It'll stick out like a sore thumb. Use that stuff over there." She waved a hand to indicate the greasy rags a few feet from me. "Rub that over the ground to hide the blood and shit. Then we'll find some dirt here. And we'll add some of that on top." Putting action to words, we worked quickly. Seeing the bloodstains, I lost the rest of my lunch. "Under the trash!" Sonya yelled against the girders, then went back to work. How do you know all this? Alex watched us handing over whatever items Sonya asked for. Son smirked. I've seen every episode of Bones, NCIS, and Hunting Amelie ever made. I can make it look like Winnie the fucking Pooh did it. What are those? E-books? I've never heard of them. How do you not know what? Sonya was aghast. I can't believe... Hope! Hope, did you hear her? She's never... Can it, guys? I said, leaning against a girder. It took everything I had to keep my eyes open at this point. We need to get the hell out of here before someone comes looking for this asshole. Last thing we want is to get caught before we've even done something. Sonya grumbled but scattered a few leaves over the area to hide the work. Wouldn't say that was the last thing I'd want to happen, she muttered. Last thing I'd want to happen is dying. Dying before we've done anything would suck. I want to put some distance between us and them. I jerked a thumb over my shoulder. The university stood only a mile or two behind us. Way too close for comfort. So ends chapter 11. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, I will promise to not let so much time go between chapters this time. See you next time. If you enjoyed this and you want to be more on, like, a little bit more well-informed, I've got a link somewhere in the description, I believe, where you can go and sign up to my newsletter. And then you can also get a free ebook and get, sneak peeks and updates on my current work in progress. So I hope I see you there.